Welcome to Life's Hidden Curriculum. I'm your host, Quan King. This podcast is for Philadelphia teens and young adults. This is a passion project of mine. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's get into it. All right, guys, I gotta come clean. So I fucked up a little bit. And when I say I fucked up, I mean that in like a very small kind of scale. So I released an episode already. And the episode talked about the slide deck that I got from the Pennsylvania School Board for Higher Education, right? So it's not that there was anything wrong with the content or the message that I was giving. The problem is what I gave y'all was heavy with like just like a code switch kind of vibe, right? So it wasn't the way I typically talk and I always talk, especially if I'm talking to you like on the street, like one-on-one, or even like in a group setting. That's not how I try to come across. But for some reason, I felt the need to make sure that this sounded polished. This sounded educated. This didn't sound like some regular, dude off the street just speaking random shit off the top of his head. And in doing that, I code switched, right? Which is something I'm trying to work on myself, right? I want this podcast to be authentic. I want it to be real. I want you to feel as though when you listen to this, you're listening to somebody that, one, knows what they're talking about, but two, is relatable. And they actually, like, they're talking to you, not like talking at you, not lecturing you, not telling you what to do or anything like that, because you get enough of that as it is. And you get a lot of people that are trying to tell you one thing, but really they got ulterior motives. So to be clear, no ulterior motives here. I don't care who listens to this. I don't care if you do anything positive with it or if you just don't say, fuck whatever you're talking about, bro. Like, I don't care. Fine. But at the end of the day, it's important for me to get this information out because this is all shit that I've learned over, the decades I've been doing this and talking with young people. And I feel pretty confident in the fact that I think I know what I'm talking about because I've been kicking knowledge to young people for a long time and I've been able to see them go out and be productive and do great shit. So it's not like I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just the fact that, it can be very, what's the best way to put this? It's hard to come across as though you know what you're talking about when nobody knows who you are, right? And for a long time, I've been the person in the back behind the scenes doing stuff because this isn't about me. I feel very strongly about mentorship. I feel even stronger about seeing young people be successful because a lot of that comes from the fact that I didn't have that when I was coming up. And I had a shit ton of questions about how the world works and what do I need to know about what's coming up next. And, how do I figure this thing out versus that? And, how do I make good choices? And I didn't really have a lot of great guides out there. And I realized that that is a common thing. And what I also realized is that that's not necessarily a universal experience for all teens and young adults, because depending on your network, the people that you or your parents know, that can really determine success. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was kind of help eliminate those barriers, right? And kind of break through a lot of that stuff. I feel as though personally, information gets gatekept based off of where you go in life. And that ends up being a determinant of whether or not you can be successful or you can contribute, or you're just going to be someone that is like a constant like gear in a larger machine and you just kind of grind and grind and grind and grind and grind away. So I think that it's important to understand and know certain things, whether that's about, how government works, whether that's about, credit, real financial literacy stuff, not just knowing, oh, here's a bank account, this is checking, this is debit. Like, most young people know what the fuck that shit is at this point, but you probably have actual questions about like cryptocurrency. You have actual questions about like, what's a credit score? And like, how do I go and get a mortgage, or do I go and get a lease? Or same thing for a car. Do I lease on a car, or should I go out and just try to pay for a car? And like, what is equity and what is, how do I diversify my portfolio? And, what about, 401ks or 403bs, all of that stuff, right? Those are actual questions that unless you have someone to ask that knows that shit, you probably don't know. Now you can go online, you can look that stuff up, but sometimes people don't even have the capacity to do that. So again, I thought a podcast would be a great format to kind of have some of these conversations with people that know what they're talking about, because I want to bring you actual experts that are local in the Philadelphia area and maybe beyond, just in the region, that can really speak to a lot of these things. So maybe put y'all on when it comes to the information. So I listened back to that first episode, and even when I did it, I can't lie. Like, it just it didn't feel like me, right? It felt like I was overly producing it. And again, the information I think is golden. I think that's great, valuable information. The problem is, if I'm giving you information, but then, if I give you a diamond and I wrap it in coal, you're gonna be like, why you giving me this coal? I don't want this. But if I tell you it's a diamond in there, you just got like dig, you like, what? Why couldn't you just give me the fucking diamond, bro? Why I gotta do extra shit to get this diamond? So heard, understood. So what I plan on doing moving forward is that although I've recorded some episodes already, I do want to kind of redo them. I want to make sure that I sound far more authentic than I did when I recorded some of these. Again, I think the content is there. The content is gold. It's shit that you actually need to know, right? I want to get in. Some of the stuff that I have coming down the pike is going to be about dating and relationships. Some of that stuff is going to be related to what the future outlook is in terms of getting jobs and, the world that you're going into. Another one is going to be talking about the school system in Philadelphia and how it's been fucked up, but like intentionally fucked up. So I want to get you guys all this information, but I also have to be mindful of the fact that if I come across real boring and dry and talking to you like, a news segment or some shit like that, you're going to tune that shit out, right? Especially if these episodes are pretty long, because some of them are, because again, I got a lot of information to share with y'all. So I want to make sure it's engaging and fun. I can't guarantee it's going to be like as engaging as I want it to be because I'm just one person, right? And I'm only doing this like semi full time. I got other shit that I'm working on. I'm trying to work on my health. I'm trying to be a better dad, better husband, all that kind of shit. So I'm giving as much of this as I can to that without it coming at the sacrifice of other shit that's important to me too. So that's another lesson that we'll definitely talk about as well in terms of like prioritizing shit that's important to you. But first you got to identify what that important stuff is. Again, we'll get into that later. So I know your ears perked up. It's like, oh shit, we about to get it. Yeah, but we're not going to do it right now. So all that being said, I appreciate y'all listening thus far. I'm gonna encourage you all to listen, tell more people to listen. Understand that putting something like this together does take some money. This kind of stuff right here that I'm doing right now, free. Like that's just out of the goodness and kindness of my heart. I don't really care. But what I want to do is create these video episodes that we can post up on YouTube and other outlets because I want to put you guys on display. I want people to look and see Philadelphia teens and young adults and actually see them. Not just the shit that they see on the news about y'all. I want to actually see you all having conversations and the things that come to your mind, things that are important to you, things that you care about, concerns you have, things that you feel aren't being addressed, and information you feel like you're just not prepared for. I want people to be able to see that, to know that, to understand that. So when people say that they want to help you, they can actually see you. Instead of looking at numbers in a report or doing some sort of research and pulling up qualitative analysis and saying, well, there's a demographic that says that they're looking for this or like they da-da-da-da, so we're going to do this instead. No, fuck all that shit. Let's actually put names to faces to some extent. I ain't trying to get y'all out there or anything like that. But I do want to make sure that people can really understand and grasp, like get you all. And I also think that y'all don't get enough shine. Like y'all really, I've been in Philly for 20 plus years, right? And I see and hear a bunch of reckless shit that's said about teens and young adults. But then I also see a bunch of reckless shit that has been done to your disadvantage. And then it makes me upset because I said, well, then I don't understand why y'all trying to give this whole demographic such a hard time when it's not like y'all gave them anything to begin with. Like y'all gave them literally scraps and then you expect them to like move mountains with that shit. It's just not possible. It's not even realistic. And let's be fair. You didn't have that. Your situation was far better than theirs. So I don't see why you trying to act like they're this problem generation when you have neglected this generation. And I can understand that there's other shit that's happened that maybe has deprioritized the needs of teens and young adults. But at the end of the day, teens and young adults still have needs that have to be met. And they're not able to do that shit on their own a lot of times. And so they do need assistance, period. That's just a fact of life. Just like babies need assistance. You can't just say, oh, well, we had a pandemic, so fuck childcare. No, that's not how that works, period. It's not. And we all know that. So teens and young adults need assistance, need help, just like anybody else does. And to be even more blunt, like there are a lot of people that are 30 and 40 that still have teen and young adult mentalities. And that's part of the fucking problem is that we haven't addressed certain things in society to really give them the support that they need so that they can mature and be adults. Instead, they just age out. Like we said before, they age out of being considered teens and young adults, but mentally they're still there because they haven't gotten the support that they need to get beyond that point. This is just my perspective. Adults are nothing more than just grown-up kids. And when I say grown up, just older, much older. I mean, same fears, same type shit, right? For instance, you go to a haunted house, right? It's not like adults have no fear going into like these dark corridors. People want to jump out and scare them. No, they just have a better, clear understanding that like, hey, like I'm about to go into this space and I have an expectation of kind of what's going to happen. But I also know that from a priority standpoint, certain things are not going to happen that are actually more cause for concern. So, for instance, if I go in this haunted house and somebody scares me, I'm not going to lose my job. I'm not going to not be able to pay my mortgage. I'm not going to suddenly end up in a divorce or my kids are going to leave me. Like those kind of things. Those are very serious, high concerns. Also, I'm not going to die. Right. I mean, I might get scared and there's a chance, my heart could have an issue, but if I'm healthy enough to do this, then I'll be fine. Whereas when you're younger, you don't know that everything scares you because there's so much of the world that you don't understand, you don't get. You don't know what the fuck could happen, right? And so that just presents a very real and persistent fear in that moment. But again, as you experience more through life, you begin to put things into a different perspective. And so now that fear is kind of gone. All that said, I do want to put y'all back on game. The segment is called In Case You Missed It. I'm calling it that because I think you guys know what that kind of means. ICYMI. Basically, there's stuff in the world that you may not have been privy to, you may not have been aware of, that I want to make sure you guys know because it does impact you. And so this segment really talks about this presentation that Dr. Kate Shaw from the Pennsylvania School Board for Higher Education did, and it's regarding their strategic plan. So basically what a strategic plan is, the plan that this organization has, and they want to accomplish X, and this is how they intend to accomplish X. And so this is their strategic plan for the next number of years or for the next year or for the next 5 years, whatever. Strategic plans have like a window of a couple of years. So this could be a 5-year strategic plan. It could be a 20-year strategic plan. I'm not sure, but I would encourage you to look this up on your own. The slide deck itself is in the show notes or description. So I'll make sure it's a link to that so you guys can do all this information on your own. So they have 3 goals. The first goal is to increase post-secondary credential attainment, and I'll explain what that is. The second goal is to make college more affordable. Okay. So they want to get more people into school, basically post-secondary institutions. And then the third goal is that they want to support workforce development needs because there is a big gap in between the people that have the credentials to do a job and then the jobs that are available that require credentials. Okay. So those are the 3 goals that they want to address. There are other goals that they have, but these were the 3 that were most important for this college prep roundtable that was held back in June. I want to give you guys a bunch of stats so like it sounds like it's legit to what I'm talking about, but then also feel like that's a little performative and y'all don't deserve that. What I will say is that the goal to increase post-secondary credential attainment, basically make sure that more people are at least getting college degrees or they're getting some level of certification beyond just high school is important. And why is it important? Because according to all these statistics and figures that I threw out in the last episode, the biggest thing is this, right? Pennsylvania is falling behind, and it is already behind as it is. When we're talking about Philadelphia, it's even further behind. So Philly has a very trash record when it comes to individuals graduating from high school and then going on to college and getting degrees. And I'll get into that on a separate episode, why that's kind of happened. But that's more so to do with your school system. So all this stuff is connected, believe it or not. And so it's important to make sure that you guys, one, understand that and know that for yourselves so that you can say, okay, now armed with this knowledge, how can I move forward? But also, 2, that other individuals are seeing this and they're figuring out what can we do to address this? How can we increase individuals being able to go to school and also get a degree? Because not only do they need to get into school to get the degree, but they got to finish this curriculum or this program in order to get said certification that's going to be able to then make them more attractive for employment and get jobs on this kind of stuff. All right. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the cost of college education. Now, it's no surprise, college is expensive as shit. And that's part of the reason why a lot of young people are like, fuck college. And rightfully so. Right. So when I looked at this, I realized that the cost of full-time college admission has gone up 180%. That's crazy. And that's since 1980. That's bananas. So it already, like, I remember talking to some other individuals who were telling me they went to college and like their entire cost of tuition was like 30, 40,000. That was it for 4 years. I was like, the fuck? When I was in college in the early 2000s, my tuition had broke 40,000 per year, which is fucking bananas when you think about how much you have to do in school, but then also when you get out, how long it takes to like pay that back, because you got to take out student loans, all this kind of other shit. And so I know people that are going to school now, and their tuition is even more than that. So I say all that to say that I completely understand why a lot of people are saying, I'm not going to college. One, because it's expensive as fuck. And two, once you get out of school, there's no guarantee that you're going to actually have a job, because you're looking at the current state of affairs now. And whether you watch the news or not, you're hearing about, yo, like, I can't get a job, or I get a job and it's like trash. Like, I'm working at like Wawa, I'm working at like Foot Locker, or I'm working at da 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 da, and I got a college degree. And as you know, I can't get these higher paying jobs because they're not hiring, or they're looking for me to have a degree and experience, but I can't get experience anywhere because nobody's hiring, right? Because everybody wants a degree and experience, but no one's trying to allow me to get experience. And then that's where the mentorship part comes in. But also, and I'll get into this later too, that's where some of the politics and the bullshit comes in, because it's people helping other people at the expense of everybody else. So it's like my cousin and them, I'm gonna bring them on, they gonna get experience, and then they can parlay that into getting this really good job over here. Meanwhile, I'm not opening opportunity for everybody. I'm just opening opportunity for certain people that I know, people I fuck with. And while on the surface that might seem like, I mean, obviously you would do that, but that's discrimination, right? Like, that's literally what it is. And if you do that across the board only for a certain amount of people, you're talking about systemic inequality. And again, we're gonna get to all this later. All right, so don't stress, don't worry about it. All right, so that was the second part, right? Making college more affordable. Because a lot of people are like, look, I know I'm supposed to go, but I also can't afford it. And two, once I get there, I'm feeling like I'm not gonna be able to get anything out of it. Now, one thing that I think is also super important for young people to understand and realize is that if you decide that you want to go to college, right, you really need to know why and what is it you want to do, and what role college is playing in you getting to where you're trying to go long term. So think of it like this. If, let's say, you want to go into cosmetology, right? And I'm a hold my reservations for what I think about cosmetology and all that kind of other shit, right? Not important. But say you want to go into cosmetology. Do you need to go to college? Now, do you need to go to cosmetology school? Yes, I would imagine so, right? But do you need to go to college per se? Probably say the answer is no. Just go to cosmetology school. Now, it depends on what you want to do when it comes to cosmetology. Do you want to own your own business? Do you want to do something that is outside of just being like a hairdresser or doing nails, or doing anything else? Like, are you trying to reinvent some sort of process or some sort of design, or do something at a higher level than just like the everyday like interaction that we understand cosmetology to be? I get, manicure, pedicure, get my hair done, I get a facial treatment, yada, yada, yada. Right. So if the answer is yes, I'm going to do more than that, I want to maybe own my own business, I want to do X, Y, and Z, da, 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 then you may want to consider some college courses. But that doesn't necessarily mean you need to go to college to get a 4-year degree, because the reality is, if you want to own your own business, you need to take some business classes on entrepreneurship, but then also how do you effectively manage a business. And I can tell you that doesn't require a 4-year degree. Now, that might look good on paper if you're trying to apply for like loans and like things for your business, all that kind of stuff. But if you have enough income or money coming in and revenue from the business that you're doing, then you kind of really don't even need that. Like, they'll say, oh, well, you clearly got the money here. I can track and see like, what you're doing. And so if you keep doing this and you can pay back the loan, then cool, we'll give you X amount of what you need. Right. So with that being said, if you wanted to own your own business, right? And say you wanted to eventually be the person that has 3 or 4 of these nail salons and beauty salons that are across an area, then yeah, you may want to definitely take a couple classes in, business management and that kind of stuff. But that's not to say you couldn't go to CCP, Community College Philadelphia, and take those courses for a reduced rate, if not free, because if you are a Philadelphia resident, all you got to do is apply, and there's a good chance that you'll be able to get those classes for free. And you can get your associate's degree, which is done in 2 years or less, and boom, you should be ready to go with that. But again, that's having a plan and knowing exactly what it is that you want to do. And if you haven't done that yet, my advice would be to figure that out first before you think about going to college, because you need to know exactly why you're going to college, what school you're going to go to, and then what classes you actually need to take to get to where you're trying to go. If you're just going to go to Temple because your parents went to Temple, I mean, that's a cute story and everything, but at the end of the day, Temple is also expensive. So if you go to Temple and you take some generic ass classes that don't apply to anything that you're trying to do when you get out of Temple, then you kind of wasted your time and your money. You could have just gone into the workforce and did something, made money instead of spending money, and then you would have had at least a lot more after 4 years than you would have when you started. That's the kind of shit that you need to know in advance. That's important. For real. And then the last thing is the credential gap. So again, the credential gap basically is just talking about there's a shit ton of jobs in the Philadelphia area that require a bachelor's or an associate's or some sort of certification program to be completed, and you can be eligible for this job. There's a bunch of those jobs in the Philadelphia area that have been posted that people haven't applied for, or people who weren't qualified applied for, but there's not enough qualified applicants to fill these positions. And these jobs are going to sit here, and then more jobs are also going to come in the future. So it said by like 2032, there's going to be 218,000 of these jobs available. And when you don't have enough people that are only graduating high school, and you don't have enough people that are going to college or finishing college, or you don't have enough people that are going out and getting these necessary, credentials, these certs, or having a diploma or degrees in these particular fields, you're going to have a bunch of jobs that end up having to be outsourced. So whether you got people that are in, different countries, they'll be able to come in and say, well, I have the certification, do this, and then they'll come in and get those jobs, right? Because across the board, even in our own country, in the United States of America, we've seen this trend happening where college has gotten unaffordable. And not just unaffordable, but even if you get a college degree, it's like, well, what the fuck was the point? Like, I have a degree and I can't get no job. It's important to really realize and recognize that. And those fastest growing job markets are going to be in the managerial. So can you manage a business? So different aspects of business operations, whether that's financial accounting, whether that's actual facility operations type stuff, management of staff, human resources, those kind of things, like in like generic kind of business, healthcare and professional jobs as well, office related jobs. So not necessarily just being a nurse or being a secretary. There are other related jobs that are associated with that too. So we're talking about financial officers. We're talking about people who can do underwriting. So that's like insurance related things. Healthcare, I mean, that's big. I can't speak to everything that I know about healthcare, but I do know that when you're talking about any sort of facility and building, you're talking about other aspects of operations too, and management. So yes, it's important to know certain aspects about healthcare and about the medical field, but in order to actually run a business that houses a medical operation, right, there are still other things that need to be done in order to support that. And so you need to have a little bit of knowledge of the medical industry, but also knowledge of how to run businesses and how to be successful in doing that. And then those are jobs that are available as well. So things are going to be competitive, obviously, because now once kind of word gets out, now everybody's going to flock to try to get these things. So it's important to make sure that you identify what you're passionate about, because at the end of the day, well, here's what you want to do. You want to wake up, you want to feel good about the shit that you do every day. You're going to spend 8 hours of your day at this job, and you only get 24 hours in a day. You should spend 8 hours of it sleeping, roughly, right? 8 hours at work. So now we're at 16. And if we know math, you only got 8 hours left. So in those other 8 hours, you got to spend time with friends, spend time with family, eat, exercise, daydream, go to the bathroom, If you got a boyfriend, girlfriend, spend time with them, do whatever the fuck you're gonna do with them, because that's your business, and then travel to all these things in between. So you don't really get a lot of time. So if you're gonna invest 8 hours of your day in something, make sure something you actually want to do, and that you don't get up and you're like, oh my God, I hate these people. I hate everything I'm doing. Because why would you do that for a paycheck? Let me tell you right now. One of the worst feelings you can have is to wake up, dread going to work, but knowing that you got to, because you still got to be able to support yourself. Even worse, support a family. And I'm not saying family is a bad thing, but what I am saying is that a lot of people on an individual basis can deal with certain shit. And then they say, you know what, this ain't for me. I can move on and do something else, right? But when you have other obligations, other people that are responsible for the decisions that you make, that's when it's different. That's when it hits totally different. And now it's like, well, shit, I got to deal with this because my son, my daughter, my wife, my husband, whomever, like everyone else is depending on me to be able to be consistent with this work. And if I can't just go out and get something better, I got to suck this shit up. Right. And you'd be surprised that shit takes a toll on you. It could fuck up a lot of shit that's in your life that you don't want fucked up. So again, identify what you're passionate about, figure out what the plan is, and then see if college fits within that plan. And again, understand that there are organizations like the Pennsylvania School Board for Higher Education. They're trying to figure out how to improve the situation for you. All right. Now, that's not saying that this is going to happen tomorrow. This is going to be a slow process, but understand that they are at least moving in the right direction. If there are resources out there that are available to you, I would say pursue those. Look into it. If you're a high school freshman right now, really start identifying, hey, where is college fitting in my conversation? And I need to figure out what I'm passionate about. Conversely, if you're a high school senior at this point, and we're talking about now in September, you are probably applying for shit right now for colleges if you haven't already started over the course of the summer. And so now it's really important to make sure that the schools you're applying to are schools that, one, have your major, two, that are going to be affordable to you if you are, going to school. And I know everybody wants to go, everybody wants to get the fuck up out of Philly. I understand that. I get it. I completely understand. But what you also have to understand is that Pennsylvania is going to be your best bet. And I say that because out-of-state tuition costs are fucking crazy. They just absolutely are. You'd be surprised how much, matter of fact, look it up. Look up how much it costs to go to a school in Delaware, University of Delaware. Look it up. Look up how much it costs to go to a school in New Jersey, Rutgers. Look it up. Seriously, these are schools that are like, Rutgers is right across the bridge in Camden, Delaware, right on the other side of the airport. So like, what I'm saying for you guys is that, like, yeah, you might be like, oh, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna go over here. It's expensive, times twice as much as it would cost if you were just staying in Pennsylvania. You can go to Penn State for cheaper. Well, let me not say that because I don't know the exact numbers or figures. I'm not gonna say that. But what I am gonna say is staying in state is gonna be cheaper than if you go out of state. Now, what I will say is if there's something specific that you're looking for, you might have to eat that out of state cost. So let's say Pennsylvania doesn't have a great program for like aquatic marine biology because you want to be a vet that works on dolphins, right? Let's say is that specific. And maybe Pennsylvania just doesn't have a great school for that. You got to go somewhere in the South. You got to go to a Florida school. You got to go to like a Louisiana school or a Texas school. You just may have to. Understandable. At that point, you're going to have to really sit down and say, which makes the most sense? What's the most affordable? Where can I get scholarships? Where can I get the funding to support this thing that I want to do? Because at the end of the day, I know that I'm going to wake up in the morning, hype as shit to go work on these fucking dolphins. And I know that in order for me to do that, I got to go get a degree from this school because only this school is going to be able to teach me how to do that. And so that's how you should really be identifying your list when it comes to schools. Do they have the major that you want? Then after that is, what's the price point? And then after that is, what's the trade-off? I got to line all this stuff up and say, so I really want to go to the school in Texas because they got aquatic marine biology, and I want to do that because I want to be a vet that works on dolphins. It's going to end up being $200,000. When it's all said and done, it's going to be $200,000 for 4 years, right? Super expensive. Or I could go to, I don't know, some Villanova. I feel like I'm always picking on Villanova. They'll be all right. Villanova has a program that maybe has a minor in marine biology where you can do those classes out of state, or you can study abroad and kind of fill in some of that stuff. Whereas the school in Texas with $200,000, Villanova is going to run you $120,000. Right? Both are expensive, but one is significantly cheaper. Now, granted, yeah, Villanova maybe isn't as far away as you would like to be, but also consider maybe there's part of that experience does allow you to go somewhere else, whether it's study abroad or maybe go to a different school where you can still get credit and do that stuff. Those kind of things are things that you have to research on your own to figure out. And the reality is you got to do that work as a young person. You got to figure that out. So make sure that you're applying to the schools that actually make sense. And at this rate, like I'm hearing kids are applying to like 7 to 8 schools. You know, you got your reach schools, you got your schools you definitely can get into, and then you got your schools that are like right kind of where you want. But I also know that for each application, there's a cost. So like none of this shit is free. Like it's expensive. So I wouldn't waste your time applying to schools that you know you're not going to want to go to see if you get in or if you don't get in. Because at the end of the day, you know, that's $70 that you could have put towards something else. And if you don't need to go to school, then maybe you just don't. You know, you don't need a degree to start a business. You may need a degree to understand how to best run your business and to support your business long term. But to start it, you can just file some paperwork and you're good to go. So I hope that's helpful. I want to make sure that as I continue to do this in the future, that again, the information I'm giving you all feels like it's relatable, feels like you guys can really understand it, you can grasp it, and it's not like I'm talking above your heads to the back of the room. I'm talking to you. Yes, you. I want to make sure that you hear what I'm saying and you know I'm coming from a place of actual love. I want you guys to be successful. I want you guys to succeed because there's no reason why you can't. There's enough out here for everybody to be great, and you guys have greatness in you. I've seen it. I know it. You guys are on the cusp of doing some really phenomenal shit that's going to change the world, but you guys got to harness it and do it for yourselves. So with that, this has been another episode of Life's Hidden Curriculum with me, your host, Quan King. I want to make sure that you guys have the skills and the tools that you all need to be successful and the knowledge to get from A to B in the world. I got to work on a better tagline, I'll be honest with you, but it is what it is at this point. Also, one thing of important note, please tell a friend to tell a friend. Yes, Cav, I'm going to borrow that from you. Deal with it. I want to make sure this word gets out to more of you, young people, and that's teens and young adults. This podcast is for you. I do this for you all. Make sure y'all are making good decisions. Be smart, be safe. And I'll catch y'all next time. Thanks for listening to another episode of Life's Hidden Curriculum. If you want to support this podcast, please go to GoFundMe.com, type in Life's Hidden Curriculum, and you'll see it pop up. We got the cool orange and like aqua color logo there. No donation is too small. I greatly appreciate it. All the money goes towards producing these 8 high quality video podcast episodes featuring teens and young adults. None of this money comes to me. So whatever you want to give, I greatly appreciate and look forward to more dope content.